boilers on departure, the funnel shrouds would be actually slackened off by the crews at their lanyard so that the funnel could increase in size and the strain would be eased. Funnels were also a convenient place to mount other important pieces of equipment. Naturally, the ship's huge sets of whistles sat proudly on a platform towards the funnel's tops. Each funnel actually had its own set of these tri-bell type steam whistles, but only the forward two sets actually functioned. Forward and abaft or behind the funnels were mounted tall waste steam pipes, which could be used to vent excess steam out of the boilers if the engines were stopped or if too much steam was being generated. Because the funnels provided a nice, tall surface, various water pipes could be fitted in too. You can see them in photos. The U-shaped piping runs up about half the height. This means that the water system for the ship's taps was provided with a natural pressure from the gravity afforded by mounting the pipes to the tall funnels. So now we well know what Titanic's funnels were made out of, how they functioned, and how they were attached to the ship. But on the night of the sinking, something very strange happened. Those carefully engineered structures came crashing dramatically down. Something had gone horribly wrong. At about 2:15 a.m, all hell had broken loose on the roof of the officers' quarters underneath the ship's first funnel. Second Officer Charles Lightoller was working with a group of sailors to prepare an Engelhart collapsible lifeboat for lowering when the ship sank out from underneath his feet with an alarming plunge. It sent a wave rolling up the boat deck, knocking people over and sucking Lightoller down, pinning him up against a ventilator's grating as water rushed in to fill the empty void below. Lightoller was eventually blasted off by a rush of hot air and came to the surface near the collapsible boat that he tried to help free. It had floated clean off the deck as the ship sank. He explained to himself what happened next at the inquiry when he said, "I just held on to something, a piece of rope or something, and was there for a little while, and then the forward funnel fell down. It fell within 3 or 4 inches of the boat. It lifted the boat bodily and threw her about 20 feet clear of the ship as near as I could judge." Now that was an incredible near miss, and extremely fortunate for those who were clinging onto the boat for dear life, but others were not so lucky. Dick Norris Williams was a rising tennis star travelling with his father in first class. They were both swept into the water by the downwards plunge too, and Richard caught sight of his father swimming towards him. He later wrote, "I saw one of the 4 great funnels come crashing down on top of him. Just for one instant, I stood there transfixed, not because it had only missed me by a few feet. Curiously enough, not because it had killed my father, for whom I had a far more than normal feeling of love and attachment, but there I was transfixed, wondering at the enormous size of this funnel, still belching smoke. It seemed to me that 2 cars could have been driven through it side by side." As the funnels came down, we can assume they flattened out now that the bracing was overcome, just as we saw in that footage of Berengaria's scrapping. Even worse was to come though. With the funnels down, detached from their seatings on the deck, a gaping wall was left behind, where, according to passenger Eugene Daly, people were sucked in by a torrent of water like flies. It's very grim stuff. As if the ship's sinking wasn't already bad enough, the collapsing funnels, and by the way, number 2 went down soon after number 1 did, in a shower of sparks and soot, took quite a few people with them. So what had happened? These funnels were designed to weather the worst of the Atlantic storms, the heavy pitching and rolling in huge seas. They were lightly built, heavily braced and reinforced, but still they had failed. Lightoller presented his own theory at the inquiries when he said, "The terrific strain of bringing the after end of that huge hull